Yo, yo, what is up? What is up for the second time today? So nice we had to do it twice. What's up, Boxing World? What's up, FightHype family? Back again from the high-tech, elaborate headquarters in Las Vegas, from the office live. And I guess some people have been talking about me this week in regards to Inoue and Fulton. But before we get to anything about that and get to the breakdown of the fight, who I'm picking once and for all to win the fight, I was very fortunate to get to interview Stephen Fulton about a half hour ago and kind of really deep dive into this fight. So I'm going to let a few more people get into the chat, and then we'll start the show off with that Stephen Fulton interview. It's about 12 minutes long, and then I'll touch on some of the big stuff this week that I've been involved in on social media, and then any questions you guys have, we'll let them rip, and give a final prediction, final analysis on this great fight, a fight that is really every bit as great as Crawford and Spence just fought at 122 pounds instead of 147 pounds. But so I can't wait for this fight. I can't wait to commentate this fight Tuesday morning, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning here in the United States. And then later that day, go to the Spence and Crawford Grand Arrivals. It's going to be an incredible week of boxing. And actually, not too long after I'm done with this live, I have to get ready and go on a plane to Oklahoma for just one night and cover the Kambosos fight and then get back here in Las Vegas. So, all right, without further ado, I suppose. What's up, Fire in My Bones? What's up, Charles N? What's up, Dane Sampson? What's up, Queso Diamante? What's up, Weedy? What's up, Three Pumps? Charles N, always, of course. Hype Spaz, everybody. 619 Cali Factor, what's going on, brother? So let's get it in. Let's hear what the unified super bantamweight champion of the world, Stephen Fulton, had to say here.
Weight in the world, defending his unified title.
Oh, one moment, chat. For some reason, your boy can't hear this interview. One moment here. Yeah, sometimes my I hate it when my computer does this. Takes my audio out. Let me grab a pair of headphones here on the fly so I can listen along. I want to pause in a couple of spots. Put this in here. Where are we at? Where's this at? Put this in here. One moment, chat. A few moments I want to pause on throughout the interview, so let me go ahead and hear this. Let me see here. Let's see if I can hear now.
Got against one of the best fighters on the planet, Naoya Inoue, the undisputed bantamweight champion, in this amazing champion versus champion fight. And Steven, man, just to get right to it, first and foremost, why are you certain you win this fight Tuesday morning here in America?
I feel like I'm the better guy overall, all around. That's just me. I don't care what the fans think, what casuals think, or what box people think about it. When I'm looking at myself and what I have to offer and what he has to offer, I feel like I'm more of an all-around fighter.
Does that include punching power too? Because that's definitely one of the areas he's looked at the strongest.
What exactly? That's one of the areas he looked at the strongest. So it's like, that's why I say I'm an all-around fighter. Like like in basketball, you have the athletic build, you have scorer, slasher, or you have all-around. I'm all around. He's more so the athletic build, as far as known for the knockouts. So I feel like when you have a guy that's known for knockouts, they tend to feel comfortable with that and they look for that. But when you have an all-around fighter, you could do whatever, and that's a dangerous fighter to deal with. And of course, I have the power as well. That's why none of my opponents continue to come in. The only person that kept coming in was Brandon. He's a different type of fighter. But people underestimate it till they feel my pop.
So much I could ask about this. So you mentioned athleticism. Are you the more athletic fighter?
Yes, I would say that.
And even mentioning Brandon,
I'm not sure that's actually true. We'll see Tuesday morning, but Inoue is an incredible athlete.
Figueroa, who is physically so much bigger than him, but it's still thought of that Inoue is a bigger punching power than him. Do you feel like maybe Figueroa punch just as hard or harder than what you're up against with Inoue?
I'm not sure because I haven't felt Inoue's power yet, so I'm not sure. But I can't point out a proven fact about those two. And when people talk about power and knockouts, I can point out one proven fact that I have went up against. Brandon was on it was 17, 18 knockout streak before he fought me.
I believe so.
He's on the same thing, right?
I think, well, he went the distance with Inoue, or excuse me, with Donaire in the first fight. But outside of that, he's been knocking everybody out. Yeah. And he knocked out Donaire in the rematch, right? 2 rounds. So same point. I hear you. But, you know, with this fight, you know, we've had guys like Muhammad Ali and Floyd Mayweather go over there, but they were in exhibitions. You're the biggest American fighter going over there in a championship level fight. Is now that it's here, is like the gravity and the magnitude even bigger than you thought it was going to be?
It's exactly what I imagined. It's exactly what I expected. The fans are exactly how I expected to embrace me. I knew I would be big when I came out here. I knew I feel like a superstar when I came out here. So I feel like
Godzilla 2110. I will get to just that in a moment. Let's finish Fulton first.
That's probably more reason why I'm just relaxed, because I'm like, yo, I've been seeing this for myself. I've been felt this way about myself. I've been knew this is what I deserve. So it's like when other people see that, they like, oh my God, like, how do you feel about it? And it's like, when you know something about yourself and you have that desire to, and you visualize it so much, it feels almost true when you don't even have it. You get what I'm saying? So now that I got it, I feel like it's just normal to me. It's regular. So that's why I feel like I'm carrying myself the way I am. I feel completely normal being out in another country. Like, it's really normal.
Because the guy who winds up pulling it off, he knows before anybody else knows.
Yes, I feel like if anybody can do something like this, it is me.
What's the fine line here between boxing, being smart on the outside and moving, but also picking your spots to try to get your respect, try to maybe even hurt them, and also exchange at times even? Yeah, what's like the sweet spot you think in this fight for that?
I mean, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, who knows how he'll approach the ring? Just like who knows how I will approach the ring. But so we'll see.
Well, you said earlier, outside of Figueroa, who's so big, these guys, they don't keep coming in. Their aggressiveness changes once they feel some of the pop. Do you think that might happen with Inoue? He's not as aggressive in this fight as people are expecting?
I mean, I can't. Probably. Well, we're gonna see, but probably.
What's your thoughts on him saying, it was in response to you, I believe, when you said he's never fought anybody like you, and he says, that's true, but he's never fought anybody like me either.
I mean, you can't really say that. I fought power punchers. Other than his power, could you tell me what do we have to offer?
I think he's super athletic. He's not just powerful; he's fast. And
no, but I knew he's like fast. I expect him to be fast. So power and speed.
Some skills too, definitely. He's not what Floyd says, straight up and down, no special effects. Or do you?
My sons, I train you.
Oh, good timing on the break.
Let's go.
Oh damn.
But you have never.
Hold up, my mouse is tripping. Chat. My mouse has died off.
You're gonna run out of cars eventually.
Oh lord.
Ninja Turtles, only beaters, August 2nd.
Well, shout out to Ninja Turtles for getting some free promo on FightHype. Let me find a
Karol G.
charger for my mouse, chat.
Mañana será bonito tour. En concierto. Boletos a la venta ya en livenation.com.
Rookie mistakes I still make on these lives, man. Alright. Should be good now.
Or am I tripping? Am I wrong on that one?
So yeah, in regards to that, talking about straight up and down, no special effects. That's almost an understatement on Inoue. He does so many wonderful things. He could drop the lead hand. He could fight out of the high guard. He cuts off the ring extremely well. He can counter on the front foot in his own way. Not, Canelo's great at countering on the front foot. Tank can do it too. But he's great at his pulls. He has great pull counters. Could drop the lead hand. Amazing timing. There's a lot of skill. I was being kind of funny saying he has, a little skill, and I was making the point of he's not just straight up and down, fast, strong, and punches hard, and is just fundamentally sound. He has some tricks up his sleeve in his arsenal, and that was my point there to Fulton. But let's see what Fulton thought about that.
I wouldn't say you're wrong because he is athletic, but I fought and sparred and been in the ring with plenty of guys like him. Now, probably... Yes. I've been in the ring with guys like him. Trust me. Down back to my amateur days, going out headbangers and stuff like that. I done fought plenty powerful, sparred plenty powerful guys, athletic guys. I feel like this is just new to the fans seeing a Asian, like a Japanese guy doing these things. It's not new to me.
Well, I mean, we had Pacquiao, of course, but
even then, he don't fight like Inoue fight. His timing isn't like Inoue's timing, so you can't say that Pacquiao was more. I always thought Pacquiao was wild, like a wild fighter.
Unorthodox, Inoue's textbook.
Yeah.
Did
Inoue, and what I guess what Steven's getting at there is Pacquiao was more an unorthodox, crazy style, and Inoue fights more textbook with his style, but. Yeah.
Wait, you used to spar with Boots, right?
Yeah.
That's some power and speed.
Even when Boots was younger, I was sparring with Boots.
So I think that's one of the main names that illustrates what Fulton was getting at. I actually have seen something similar to him, and I don't know if he's seen my kind of style over there. Let's check again. Saying he sparred Boots, that's a hell of a mixture of power and speed. But that's sparring with 16-ounce gloves and everything. But
orthodox, Inoue's textbook.
Yeah.
Wait, you used to spar with Boots, right?
Yeah.
That's some power and speed.
Even when Boots was younger, I was sparring with Boots.
So is that speaking to your point? You've seen some power and speed on that level before.
Yep.
But on the flip side,
but we don't know how his power. I don't know how his power feels. Yeah, so we'll see how everything pans out.
Well, do you feel like I know you're not trying to give away any free shots, but when that moment comes, he does land hard, you'll be up to it with the punch resistance.
Yeah. I feel like all I have to do is be on point.
Is this going to be your Hopkins Trinidad?
Somebody said that to me before.
A few similarities there. Inoue, like Trinidad, is this fearsome, incredible balance, mixture of punching power, explosiveness, timing, accuracy, and balance. Very, very much like Trinidad in those senses. And then Trinidad was in his third weight class, and Inoue's in his fourth weight class. They were both heavily favored, almost the same kind of odds, 3.5 to 1, 4 to 1. Only difference is Hopkins was fighting at home in the United States, and Fulton actually has to go overseas, of course, to Japan. But that is the best case scenario for Stephen Fulton, is his Hopkins Trinidad kind of fight.
We're gonna see. We're gonna see. But hopefully, yeah. I'm very confident in this fight because the way I trained, the way I made weight, like I feel good. I eat 3 times a day.
Say it again.
I eat 3 times a day.
So you're strong.
And the weigh-ins is 2 days away for me over here. I eat 3 times a day.
Well, that leaves
so that shows you my weight is good. Some guys will still be drying out right now, or only eating once or twice. I eat 3 meals a day.
So, how big of a factor in this fight for you winning it is how big of a factor is your size in this fight and you winning it?
It's a huge factor because I have to use my body. I feel like I have to mix it up a lot, but my body, my frame, my structure, my length, everything, I got to use all of that.
And you guys actually have the same length though, right? As an arm reach.
No, I don't think so. Them Jones be messing up. They be messing up. They still got me as 5'6". I'm 5'7".
They had Via 3 inches shorter than Duran, so
they got Brandon like 5'9". That motherfucker was like 5'10" and a half.
So you're the bigger man all around, arm length, everything.
Yeah, but then again, that doesn't matter. I've been in there with bigger guys.
Do you feel like he's slated to get more credit if he wins than you because he's the smaller guy? Or not necessarily?
I don't even want to think about that.
I hear you.
Because I'm planning on winning.
I hear you. There's a lot of talk about the winner of Spence and Crawford being the number one pound for pound. But do you feel like there should be just as much of that on this fight? This could be the fight who's for number one pound for pound just as much as Spence and Crawford.
It is, but no matter what, top two for both. So that's all that matters. Top two for both, and that's still great for both parties.
So after both fights, next Sunday, however you have it, the winners of these next two fights should be 1 and 2. Whether you want the winner of Crawford Spence 1 or Fulton and Inoue 1.
Yeah, 1 and 2.
I think that's fair.
That's what I'm saying. Who else in the fight like all of us right now?
So, but man, that's about it. That's about all I got for you, man. I think everyone's just ready to see this fight.
I got one more.
At this point, if there's anything else you wanted to touch on before you get out of here, Steven, thank you, brother. But actually, what is your final prediction? I know you're gonna say just get my hand raised, but you know what? No, brother, I do got one more for you. Do you think this fight's in Japan? And I imagine
a little fucked up in getting it out, but this is an important question in the fight.
Even though they don't get as loud in Japan, sometimes they do in the United States, they're still going to be buzzing. And even when he's hitting gloves at times, they're going to be reacting to everything. And I know the judges are not from Japan or the United States, but fighting on the road, do you feel like 115, 113, even if it's you clearly won those 7 out of 12, is that going to be enough to get a decision in this fight, or you're going to have to do a little bit more than that?
In my head, I'm gonna always have to do more. So I'm that's my mindset. Do more. But I feel like I can get that. It'll be fair. I feel like they'll be fair. The judges, I feel like the judges will be fair in this fight. I don't really care about the hitting on the gloves or with the fans getting loud. I don't feel like it's gonna be quiet in the arena though. I definitely feel like this gonna be the fight that they're like, yo, this is one of the best fights in Japan. I feel like we won't. The crowd won't be silent as much as probably in the first couple rounds, yeah, because everybody locked in. But I feel like once we get started, I don't think it'll be quiet.
And that was about it, guys. I asked one question too many, and it cuts off a little bit after that. But that was it for that. Let me go ahead and remove the headphones. I don't need these now. So again, shout out to Stephen Fulton for his time there. And you guys will notice that a question about PEDs never came up in that interview. And the reason why that never came up is it was never going to be a part of my line of questioning for Stephen Fulton or anything to do with Inoue had I talked to Inoue before this fight. So in the lead up to this fight, I have probably on these lives, which my regulars, and I got a couple super chats I got to get to before I forget, that Jameson Childress, thank you, brother, and Christian Salvador, thank both of you guys, man, and I'll read your super chats in just a minute, but gotta get to what everyone's been talking about on social media. So these lives I usually do here on FightHype can carry on for as long as 5 hours sometimes on fight night. And I've been discussing Inoue Fulton for months and months and months now. And a grand total, if I were to count it all up, it would have to be anywhere from at least 2 to 3 hours to as many as 5 or 6 hours we've probably spent discussing Inoue and Fulton. And so social media Twitter takes 44 seconds out of a. I'll tell you guys what the full segment was in a moment. It takes 44 seconds out of a 8-minute segment that was a part of a 2-hour live, which is in a collection of lives that spans several tens and tens of hours. Plenty of them including me talking about Inoue and Fulton. And for less than a minute or so out of that 5 hours, I was asked. It wasn't an agenda on my mind to bring up or to really discuss, but I try to be as candid as possible with my audience and my viewers when they ask me a question, especially if it's a super chat. I gotta answer it. And so someone asked me about PEDs, and if you were to and Naoya Inoue, and I said he was it's extremely suspect and suspicious that he would complain and quote bitch about testing, and then the fight gets rescheduled. Well, I'll remind you first and foremost that suspicion is not accusation, and it's not a claim of making a claim of guilt or anything like that. It's simply that, it's a suspicion. It's not an accusation. And let me gather my thoughts here. And if you go back and watch that live, and it was, I believe, earlier this Monday, this week, if you go back and watch that live, I'll go ahead and give you the time to go ahead and watch, because I'm not going to go back and watch it here. It was from 1 hour and 2 minutes into the live to about 1 hour and I think it was 10 minutes and 50 seconds into the live, about an 8.5 minute segment on Inoue and Fulton, where a great majority of that 8 minutes was discussing why I think Inoue will win the fight and why he's a special, quote, special fighter with a special blend of power, explosiveness, speed, accuracy, timing, and I think that was it. Yeah, balance, power, timing, speed, and accuracy. And that as good as Stephen Fulton is, who's very good all around the board, I pick Inoue because he's not just very good, he's a special fighter. Moving up, one of the great bantamweights. And in that 8-minute segment, just 20 seconds before, I named a lot of fighters from the United States and beyond. I named some of my favorite fighters of all time, some of your favorite fighters of all time, several fighters that a lot of us love that have been implicated in PED suspicion or worse in their career. So if you want to go back and take it for full context so you could really know what my take was, which was really a larger take on nobody in elite level boxing or professional sports really being above suspicion. And my grand point was that nothing would surprise me. I never said Inoue was a cheater or anything like that, and I still don't say he is. All I said was it was suspect that he complained and bitched. Maybe I shouldn't have used that word bitch. Maybe the word bitch and Inoue should never be in the same sentence. I can understand that, but he certainly came off as complaining to some of us, and it was suspect. And you guys can go ahead and watch back all the other fighters I named, with him. But I didn't get on Twitter and discuss it in part because Twitter is not why I'm here. Twitter did not make me in boxing. I am not a Twitter guy. I'm a real life guy, and I'm a YouTube guy. And I've been doing this over 10 years in the field. So when a Twitter mob wants to take 44 seconds out of an 8-minute segment in a 2-hour live, in a collection of several hours of lives discussing this fight, many of those hours praising Inoue and picking him to win the fight, I don't feel compelled to acquiesce to the Twitter mob. The Twitter mob didn't make me. I made me here on FightHype and before FightHype even, on other channels. So this is my platform and where I will choose to address what people said. Twitter is a place with, around 200 characters. This is where a real extended, in-depth dialogue can happen. And Twitter is designed for hot takes and designed for people to get taken out of context. So I touched on that, and I want to touch on the arrogant part because a lot of people seem to think I have an issue with Inoue and his arrogance. Let me tell you one fighter Naoya Inoue's arrogance reminds me of. Eric El Terrible Morales, who is right behind my head right there alongside Marco Antonio Barrera. Eric El Terrible Morales, as well as Bernard Hopkins, are my favorite fighters in boxing history. So clearly, arrogance isn't some big problem with me. And the arrogance that I'm talking about, I'm not referencing my personal interaction and interview with him, an interview I'm very proud of because it's a feather. If I never get to speak to Inoue again, I'm happy with the fact that that's a feather in my cap, that I am an American reporter who got to have a one-on-one with Naoya Inoue, you know, an all-time great bantamweight. And if he wins Tuesday morning here in America, then he'll be just an all-time great fighter and probably Japan's greatest fighter of all time. But arrogance is not rare amongst a lot of great fighters. Like I said, Eric Morales was that way. Lomachenko, in his 20s, was arrogant. He would taunt fighters in the ring. Inoue, this is very rare by Japanese fighters, especially in Japan, where the crowd tries to remain as respectful as possible. They get a little louder these days than they did in the Tyson Douglas days. But Inoue in rounds 6 and 7 with Butler is showcasing that arrogance. The arrogance that is a dimension to a lot of great fighters that we love. Roy Jones Jr., for example. I interview him now in his 40s and his 50s. You know, very laid back, calm, mellow man. But I bet if I interviewed RJ in his 20s, I'd have dealt with a very, in some ways, arrogant man at times. And that maybe that just comes with the territory for some fighters who are great and who are knocking everybody out. And they know they can back up every bit of that arrogance. So I don't care that he is arrogant, but he does appear to me arrogant. I'll call a spade a spade. It's not some disqualifying thing. I love watching Inoue fight. I think that should he win Tuesday, or not, you know, if he wins Tuesday, that he's the best fighter in the world for at least half a week, depending on what we see from Terrence and Errol. And if he wins and his performance supersedes the winner of Crawford and Spence, he may just be the best fighter in the world, period, for beyond just half a week. But again, you go back to the 6th and 7th with Paul Butler. He's in control, looking great. He starts taunting and playing to the crowd. And that's just a little show and a glimpse of his arrogance. I remember Eric Morales, after he knocked out Frank Velarde, stood over him like he was a fish and took a picture after the fight over him. So it's not something that personally triggers me. I'm grateful for the one interview I've interviewed him a couple times, but for the last interview I had when he knocked out Das Marinas, grateful for that interaction. If I never interview him again, I was happy to have had that. But I don't move away from saying anything about it being suspect. I would recommend that you watch the full segment. Again, 1 hour and 2 minutes to about 110, close to 111. And you'll see my bigger point I was making that wasn't singling out Inoue at all. So, you know, that for the most part is it. Yeah, that is not arrogant. It's confidence. Well, it's not even. I'm not even talking about the in the ring stuff. I'm saying my general observation of him, how he interacted with people and everything. And again, that's fine, and it's not rare amongst an elite fighter, an elite athlete in their prime. You know, he's not going to be the same when he's retired and in his 50s with his grandkids. He's going to be calmed down and mellow. People mellow with age. But I don't care if he is or isn't arrogant. It isn't some. It was a point I was making and why he would feel. It was the arrogance along with he is a king in Japan. I mean, he is a king, and when this happens in the United States with United States athletes, when you hold dominion and you have a lot of people make a lot of money off of you, you can sometimes feel you can do things that other people can't. That's not exclusive to Inoue, you know. So, but yeah, that's about it, chat. But let me see. But yeah, anything about some sour grapes, about an interview or anything? No, I was happy to have interviewed Inoue. He's one of my favorite fighters to watch. I'm picking him to win the fight Tuesday because even though Fulton is bigger than him, is fast, is smart, he can counter. I do worry for Inoue about how he leaves his chin up before he explodes into things like his 1-2. Maybe Fulton could get a beat on him and start to counter him a little bit, make him not keep his feet set. But when I went back and watched that Paul Butler fight, Inoue was so good on the ropes. And he didn't cut off the ring the best, but he didn't always have to cut off the ring the best because he's so athletic. His feet can get him into position quickly, even when the guy is keeping away. So he's very accurate when he gets a guy along the ropes. He throws to the body to set up the bombs to the head. Fulton's very slippery along the ropes, but he can be touched to the body like he was against Figueroa and in a few rounds against Danny Roman. That being said, I wouldn't be shocked if Fulton boxes Inoue's ears off. And I actually think he will box his ears off for significant stretches of this fight. But Inoue, and you could go, I'll pull up maybe tomorrow my Tim Bradley breakdown with on Inoue Fulton. But Inoue, like Pacquiao, he has that ability that you're watching him and you're saying, I could take advantage of his aggressiveness. I could touch him coming inside. I can do this and that. He's aggressive. He leaves himself open at times. I'll counterpunch. I'll box. And you can even do that for a minute and a half, 2 minutes in the round. And then all Pacquiao needed was a couple of sequences, a couple of moments where he got you on the ropes and he hurt you. And all that good work you were doing in the round just got thrown out the window and you lost the round because you got hurt in the round. I can see that happening to Fulton in a few rounds where he's doing very well against Inoue and then getting maybe hurt on the ropes, tagged on the ropes, the crowd reacting, and that round gets away from him when it looked like he could be on his way to winning it. I envision a few rounds like that happening to Stephen Fulton, where it's a good minute, it's a good 2 minutes, and then in the second half of the round, Inoue just needs a few moments. Fulton is the guy who has to fight perfect in this fight to win it. He has to have his Hopkins Trinidad. He has to know when to hold him, when to fold him, when to move, when to counter, when to stand. And he probably has to win more than 7 rounds. So he has to fight a perfect fight. Inoue, with his just being an incredible force of nature in a blend of power, speed, and accuracy, balance, timing, he only needs moments in this fight. He may only need a few moments late in the fight and he can get a stoppage. So, and I remember Max Kellerman would talk about that when Tim Bradley would fight Manny Pacquiao. And Tim Bradley, very skilled fighter, skilled American fighter, can box your ears off, but not a puncher ultimately to really keep you off and really score something hard. And inevitably, Pacquiao in those second and third fights would get to Tim and would hurt him and would offset some of the clean boxing he would do. And I think this will be more competitive than the second and third Tim Bradley, Manny Pacquiao fights. I think this will be more competitive, but I still see Inoue winning this fight by decision. I do think he'll hurt Fulton in this fight. I do think he'll finish the fight with a bruised face, and he'll have been outboxed in some of the rounds cleanly. But ultimately, I think he'll hurt Fulton enough, maybe even can get a knockdown at some point or something, hurt him to the body. And I think he'll win a close, very hard-fought decision in Japan. And I don't say in Japan that I don't think it'll be disputed. I think it'll be a very close fight, and Inoue will earn a deserved decision over Fulton. And at that point, be the best fighter in boxing for at least half a week, But if the winner of Crawford and Spence looks even more impressive than the winner of Fulton and Inoue, if Inoue wins that fight, then I think then it's Crawford and Spence. But depending on who looks more impressive, and Stephen Fulton mentioned in our interview, he feels like if he wins, he should be 1 or 2 pound for pound. And I said that's fair, meaning that's fair. Like, that's a fair statement. That's not a crazy statement. It's not a ludicrous statement. Me personally, though, I'd probably put Steven closer to the top 5 and not the top 2 or 3, just because he's in his first division and he's not picking up another belt here. He's not becoming undisputed. He's not moving up to a second or third division. Inoue's in his 4th division. This is kind of like Crawford Spence in that if Crawford or Inoue wins, it really cements them as an all-time great. And if Spence or Fulton wins, it more so solidifies them as a great in their weight class. Fulton's an all-time great 122-pounder. Spence is an all-time great welterweight, which, pretty much therefore does make you an all-time great. But splitting hairs here, not quite the same. I think Inoue and Crawford, if they win their fights because they're in their 3rd or 4th division and they've already been undisputed, it really cements them as 2 of the very greatest fighters of this era and 2 all-time great fighters. Whereas Fulton, Spence would become undisputed, so he's good. He's an all-time welterweight and a Hall of Famer there. Fulton, though, would still, have to look towards undisputed and still maybe move up another division, and that's how he could get to number 1 pound for pound. But I got a super chat from my man, the one ALV, saying, "What's up, Sean? In my opinion, if Charlo beats Canelo, he deserves to be number 1 pound for pound." Very fair statement. Very fair statement. Actually, yeah, I would have to agree with that. Although Canelo lost recently in the last year and a half to Bivol. And Inoue, Crawford, Spence, and Fulton are all undefeated, and we don't want to place too much of an emphasis on that, but recent history does matter, not just your entire body of work. So if Crawford beats Spence, he's beating an undefeated guy on the top of the division who hasn't lost ever, hasn't lost recently, hasn't lost ever. Same thing for Inoue if he beats Fulton. If Jermell beats Canelo, to me, I think that is even probably still is going to go down as more impressive, because this is Terrence Crawford said if he wins, it's the Terrence Crawford era, but it's the Canelo era post Manny and Floyd. So he would be beating the fighter of this generation in Canelo Alvarez. So I think that's a very fair statement by the one ALV. He feels Charlo would be number one pound for pound if he beats Canelo, but we'll see from Terrence Crawford and from Jermell Charlo if they're too light in the ass, as they say, against Canelo and Spence. I'm picking Canelo to beat Jermell as of right now. I haven't really deep dove into that fight, sunk my teeth. It's a long ways away. But I'm picking Crawford to beat Spence, but I'm not picking Jermell to beat Canelo. But we'll see in both of their fights how their punch resistance deals with facing a bigger man who's the best puncher either one of them has ever faced. But we'll see. So this is probably silly, but yeah, it is. I won't even do it. Fuck them. So yeah, chat. That's really just wanted to share with you guys that interview with Fulton, and then speak my piece on my platform about all the crazy stuff this week that happened on social media and Twitter. Let me see. I still got to shout out my man Jameson Childress and Christian Salvador. Christian Salvador said Gallo Estrada would outbox Inoue, and he is smaller than Fulton. Fulton will outclass Inoue. Well, Fulton might ultimately box his ears off, but I'm picking Inoue, and I don't think Gallo Estrada beats Inoue. He's too small. He's too small. He might beat Fulton, who's a natural 122 pounder, who's gonna go up to 26 eventually. Gallo Estrada, I know he won the Chocolatito third fight, but a lot of us thought he lost the second fight. Gallo's probably going to the Hall of Fame himself. I'm pretty sure he will be. He's been one of the top 10 to 15 fighters of the last half decade to a decade, but I think he's too small for Inoue. I think Inoue is just too much of a force in nature for Gallo Estrada. I don't think anyone was messing with Inoue 118 on down. This is the final test. If he, going up to his fourth weight class, 122 against Fulton, who is arguably himself right on the top 10, at the bottom of the top 10, if not in the next 5 guys in the top 15, the naturally bigger guy, Philly tough, can fight on the inside like he showed against Angelo Leo and Brandon Figueroa, can outbox you on the outside. If he can beat Fulton, I've seen enough from Inoue. I said that on the live, the infamous live that everyone took from, but they didn't take that 30 seconds. They didn't take any other 30 seconds. Is that I've seen enough from Inoue, man. This is the final test to him really proving he's truly special and an all-time great. He's already a Hall of Famer, based off being undisputed at bantamweight, but and the divisions below that. But this is the fight that will answer any and all questions about Naoya Inoue. If he beats Fulton, then no more questions, sir. He's good to go. So we'll see. Again, I still could see Fulton counterpunching, getting a beat on his timing. Inoue does leave his chin up in between his power shots, and even as fast as and explosive as those power shots are, they can be, I don't want to say wide, but for lack of a better word, wide, because the nature of how he throws them, he's not like Terrence Crawford or Lomachenko, touch, bang, bang. That's more what Stephen Fulton's going to be doing, changing the speeds on punches and things like that. Inoue throws everything hard. And because he's throwing everything hard, it's something Fulton could counterpunch in between of, but it's going to be very tough because it's hard to counterpunch a guy as fast with the timing and the speed and the accuracy of Inoue. So we'll see, though. This is going to be the toughest fight of his career. I have no doubt about that. I know Donaire hurt him in the first fight, but only won about 3 rounds in that fight total. I think Fulton will win more than those 3 rounds. I think he'll win 4 or 5, and this will be a very competitive fight, maybe even 6-6, and Inoue is able to hurt or drop him, and that makes the difference. But So we'll see. Sean, Teddy Atlas said this is a new version of Mayweather and Pacquiao of what it could have been in their primes. Do you think that's true? You talk about Crawford and Spence. I don't think we're quite there yet. Nobody got decapitated by a right hand by Juan Manuel Marquez. That'll take a little pound of flesh off of you. Even though Pacquiao was still excellent after that knockout, but wasn't the Pacquiao that knocked out Cotto, De La Hoya, Hatton, those guys. He beat up Antonio Margarito. It wasn't that Pacquiao. It was still an excellent fighter, but not that. I do think Crawford's legs have slowed down a little bit. He's got that 98 Michael Jordan, 2010 Kobe Bryant thing going on where he's still that same guy, but his legs aren't what they once were all the way. Spence's car accident, and the Ugas fight where he finally was able to rehydrate to what looked like 160 plus. He caught fire in that fight, and for the first time to my eyes, Spence looked in the Ugas fight as good as he did in his peak era from Kell Brook to Mikey Garcia, because it was Kell Brook, Lamont Peterson, Carlos Ocampo, Mikey Garcia that I thought Spence was rehydrating to 160 plus and was just looking like a monster. And then Sean Porter, his legs looked thin and his frame looked thinner against Sean Porter. And even though he won that fight, I wasn't super impressed with him like I was in those other fights. And then Danny Garcia was the first fight after the car accident. Same kind of thing in the Sean Porter fight. Didn't physically look like himself with that huge broad back and looking like that big Texas bull. And then once he fights Ugas, he finally began to look like he's rehydrating to 160 plus again, and everything looks hard and snappy when he's letting it go. So I think Crawford and Spence are closer to their peaks than Mayweather and Pacquiao were, but I don't think they're at their peaks either, but they are in their primes. So still probably in terms of just when this fight could have been fought at its very best, that was probably 2019. But this is still for all the marbles, and I think will stylistically deliver. And in some ways, the number one thing between the two of them having been slowed down was Crawford's legs, because all the great trainers would tell you legs are the first thing to go, power's the last thing to leave. That means it's going to be a really exciting fight, because the only way this fight could have been a dud is in Crawford in the Victor Postal Jeff Horn days got up on his bike and boxed a cautious fight and limited the exchanges. But I'm not sure he even has the legs to do that anymore. So I remember Jim Lampley and Larry Merchant used to talk about when guys get into their 30s, sometimes you'll get even more of a firefight, like Thrilla in Manila versus the first Ali Frazier fight, although the first Ali Frazier fight had almost as much action as Thrilla in Manila, but Thrilla in Manila was that much more brutal because Ali couldn't really move around at all anymore. He was pretty much rope-a-doping it for 13, 14 rounds. He moved in spots, but for 13 or 14 rounds, he basically rope-a-doped it with Frazier, and it brought about more exchanges because the guys couldn't keep away from each other, or Ali couldn't keep away as much in spots. So there you go. So there you go. Let me see. What's good, Sean? Are you doing a live tomorrow for Keyshawn and Cambosis? What's up, St. Nuso? No, I'm not. I'll be in Oklahoma. I don't mean maybe. Maybe I'll do a live ringside one from Oklahoma, but I got a flight at 5 in the morning to head to Oklahoma. I had the Spence Crawford media days earlier this week, so it's been a crazy and fun 2 weeks. But yeah, no, I don't know if I'll be doing a live round by round, but I will be in the building in Oklahoma, and then I'm hopping on a plane literally once the fight's over. A couple hours later, I'm headed back to Las Vegas. I'll be back in this office by Sunday morning. So, Marcus Thomas says this dude has never been in a fight. What's his opinion to add to the reality of things? Absolutely nothing. Well, hold on, Marcus. 1 second. Where the hell is it? Oh, there it is. I'm doing too much. Well, I had a few others at my mom's house. Obviously, I don't live with my mom anymore. But yeah, this was one fight I had. This was out of my 3 fights. This was the third one, the one I lost in 06. finished 2-1. But yeah, I had a fight, you know, a little trophy to show. It's still in the office. Jose De Leon got a gift that night at Barry's Boxing. It's okay. The judges were scoring. Everything landing on the gloves. I was landing my 1-2s, no problem, sharp. But it's okay. It's okay. You know, I was landing those 1-2s all day, but they didn't give me the decision. It's okay. Now I know, you know, so Marcus Thomas says you can't beat me. That's okay, Marcus. I didn't say I could beat you. You just said I'd never been in a fight before, and I have. So, been in a couple. Been in more than I wish to have been in my life. So, lost plenty of them. Won some of them, too. But, yeah. So, thank you, the one ALV. The one ALV, thank you for the super chat, said, there will always be haters twisting words you say, especially on the internet. You're probably one of the most unbiased reporters out there who raises questions nobody wants to ask. Don't let them change you. No, thank you, the one ALV. I appreciate that, man. And it wasn't even, like, the PEDs, if anything, more so than being the guy that PEDs must be stopped in boxing and in professional sports, like, I just want a level playing field. If one guy's on it, I want the other guy on it. If one guy's not on it, I don't want the other guy on it. But I trend closer to the sentiment of like John Witherspoon, Craig's dad from Friday. I don't want to get copyright, but go ahead and look up John Witherspoon's rant on steroids. I'm a lot fucking closer to that than I am the guy who just has this... I'm realistic about what I'm watching, and I'm not surprised if guys in the pursuit of millions of dollars in their dreams use that stuff, especially if they think the other guy is or might be using it, and they want to. So I'm not holier than thou about that stuff. I just simply got a question about it, and I answered it. It wasn't really a big agenda on the topic. Like I said, it was about a minute or so worth out of a 10-minute segment, out of a 2-hour live, amongst several hours of live. But that's what Twitter likes to do. They like to, kind of like George Orwell wrote in 1984, they would put someone on a screen to hate for 2 minutes of the day, you know, just to do that exercise. And that's kind of what Twitter likes to do. That's why I'm not a big fan of Twitter. So yeah, but people could think what they want, man. What's that phrase? How someone else thinks of you is none of your business sometimes. So I know who I am. Jameson Children said, question, what are the exact scoring criteria in the pros? Well, what was it? Ring generalship. Can someone cue Harold Letterman, please? He would say, the rules is oh God, I used to have this by heart. It'd be like, defense, ring generalship, and clean punching with a strong emphasis on clean punching. Jim! But yeah, let's go ahead and look it up. That's not that hard to look up. I know it's ring generalship, defense, and of course the emphasis on clean, effective punching, which I think is, you know, accounts for almost 90% of that. Judges' criteria for scoring boxing. No, we're not talking NBC. Let me specify here. I know there was a few more categories beyond the three I mentioned. Ring generalship, defense, and clean punching. Effective aggression. I remember effective aggression's one of them, of course. Here it is. Effective aggressiveness. No. Let me see here. It's, yeah, effective aggressiveness, defense, ring generalship, and clean effective punching. That might be it. I might be missing one, but that's basically it. And to me, it's always just about who's landing the better shots. I think things like effective aggressiveness, they come into play when the fight's extremely even. I mean, if both guys are landing big shots and it's 50-50 in that area, then the edge goes to the aggressor. The guy, I think that makes sense. I could follow that. And then same thing with me in activity. If we both landed 100 clean shots on each other, but I threw 200 more, I'm going to give it to the guy who was more active. Even if some people would say, but the other guy, he was more efficient and all that. Yeah, they both landed the same amount of shots and the other guy out-hustled him. But basically, it just comes down to who's landing the better shots, in my opinion. And if all things are equal between the punches being landed, then that's when the other criteria starts to really have a bigger emphasis. That's when you have to start looking for other things like, well, who was the aggressor, who was pushing the pace, and so on. So Fulton by UD, the best bet over 10-5. Inoue's skill set is amazing. Yeah, that's what I was getting at with in the Fulton interview. Is he's not just fast and strong and punches hard and nah. This guy has a lot of tools in his arsenal. Or in America, he could, as they say, he could reach into his bag. He has a bag to pull from, and so does Stephen Fulton. I'm not even saying his bag is deeper than Stephen Fulton's. It might be, or it might be just. We'll see. It's more so he's more gifted as a special force of nature, and you can't teach that. Fulton is extremely smart, and he'll show that, and he'll fight really well. But I just think the difference between the two of them is Fulton is really, really, really good to elite at several things, but Inoue is just special in a couple of areas. Not really good, not elite, but special in certain areas. Balance, timing, accuracy, power, explosiveness. So, we'll see how that goes, but and if Stephen Fulton wins, man, just, huge credit to him. What's the better case scenario for Fulton winning, making it look like Mayweather-Pacquiao or Hopkins versus Trinidad? Good question. Good question. He's probably going to have to fight more of a Mayweather-Pacquiao fight, even though I mentioned Hopkins-Trinidad, because Hopkins mixed it up with Trinidad. He swam, Nazim Richardson, rest in peace, he swam without getting wet a lot in that fight with Trinidad. I don't know how much swimming... Even if you are good at not getting wet, I don't know how much swimming you want to do with Inoue if you're Fulton. Bernard was a really big middleweight. I mean, he went on to become the light heavyweight champion. He was 6'1". I mean, he was huge for a middleweight. And Fulton's bigger than Inoue, but I don't think to the degree that Bernard Hopkins was bigger than Trinidad. That looked like a straight middleweight versus a welterweight that night, or a super middleweight against a junior middleweight, So and Floyd, that fight was fought at a fast pace. It won Fight of the Year in 2001. It was a very exciting fight, and Mayweather-Pacquiao wasn't. Not so. I mean, it had some moments. Pacquiao hurt Floyd twice. What was it, in the 4th and the 6th? But outside of that, it was Floyd just winning, outboxing him. And that's probably more of the fight that favors Stephen Fulton. A more dull affair. Not so much action and exchanges. I think. If it's more Hopkins Trinidad, then that's not as advantageous to him as a Mayweather-Pacquiao type fight. But thanks for the question. Jameson Childress said, if Spence Crawford is like Duncan Garnett, what would you call Inoue Fulton? Ashton Kutcher, yes, all day. I love that comparison. The man was on every girl's poster wall in the 2000s all the way into the early 20s. I'll take the Ashton Kutcher all day. Please leave the Drake Bell alone. If you want to trigger me and hurt my feelings, stay on the Drake Bell. Don't stay with the Ashton Kutcher. You're going to blow my head up. But that's a tough one. Inoue Fulton, if it's an NBA comparison, Inoue is... God. Inoue's like a Derrick Rose, maybe, or a Westbrook. And Fulton is, I want to say, a less athletic but bigger guard. Who would that be, chat? Who would that be? Someone not as athletic as Rose and Westbrook, but maybe plays the 2. Maybe is like 6'5", and isn't as athletic. Is athletic, but isn't as athletic. I don't know. Maybe like... I don't know, like a D Rose was. This is a tough one. I don't know. Errol Spence killed it, and I said it before he said it. It was like great minds think alike. The Garnett Duncan thing, and I said if it goes Crawford's way, it might be like Olajuwon Shaq with Terrence being Olajuwon. But AI, I don't know. It's tough. I'm tough to. Chris Paul, no. Talking bigger guard. Maybe like Russell Westbrook. Maybe like Russell Westbrook, Derrick Rose against like D. Will back in the day. Like Derrick Rose versus Darren Williams when Darren Williams was in Utah. Like one guy is just such a force of nature, but the other guy, a little bit bigger and maybe a better, more of a pure point guard. Like Fulton's more of a pure boxer, but Rose not as pure a boxer as Inoue is a pure boxer as Fulton, but just such a force of nature. I don't know. That's the best maybe I could do. Maybe like Derrick Rose against Brandon Roy. Okay, Brandon Roy. There you go. Like Derrick Rose or Russell Westbrook against Brandon Roy. Something like that. So, I'm in the chat and said the camera looks so much better. That's cool. Well, that's my wife, actually. That's why she did it. It's okay, babe. They know it's you now. But, let me see here. Shaggy's another good one. If you want to bum me out, you go Shaggy. That works. Don't do Ashton Kutcher. Yeah, D Will, maybe like D Will, Derrick Rose kind of thing. Brandon Roy against Derrick Rose, a guard that's bigger and plays the game the right way a little bit more, but the other guy at the end of the day can just explode and dunk on anyone's head. So yeah. Do I think Fulton is going to be somewhat jet lagged? I don't. The Kid Sauce, because he's been there for a couple weeks. He did his due diligence. He didn't just get out there on fight week and wing it. You know, he got there a couple of weeks early to get acclimated. And just talking to him right now at the beginning of the live, he looked extremely calm and confident. So I don't think he's jet lagged at all. Tube TV in the back. Thank you, Defects1. Thank you, brother, for the super chat. Good to see you. Said, Tube TV in the back. Am I into retro gaming? Put this $5 into the Jordan 11s you're going to send me. Fulton is a young Sean Livingston. Ooh, I like that one. Sean Livingston was athletic before that awful injury with the Clippers. And had so much, man. Sean Livingston would have been great without that injury, man. Like that one. Into retro gaming, 100%. This TV is only for retro gaming. I got the PS2 right here, the Sega Saturn, the Sega Dreamcast. The Dreamcast is right there. Got my little NFL Blitz arcade cabinet. This is where retro gaming goes down. Is in the office. PS5 and all that stuff is downstairs in the living room. But for sure, this is the retro gaming spot. Defects1, you already know. And thank you, brother. DL87 hit me with a super chat saying, Bud is more of a peak fighter at 35 years old, and Spence is more prime at 33 years old, and isn't a fighter's prime more mid to late 20s? Either way, both monsters. Well, I do think for the most part your prime is in your late 20s. Bill Simmons in the NBA has written about this for years, that in the NBA 27 is the peak age, and 27 to 29. I don't think that's quite as simple as in boxing. I think you've had guys like Lennox Lewis and Bernard Hopkins who were at their best in their mid-30s. I think Lennox was better at 34 than he was at 24. I think Bernard was better at 36 than he was at 26. So that doesn't go for everybody. But I would agree with you that for I'd say your late 20s more often than not is going to be peak performance for a fighter. But there are guys that are different. Bernard's peak was in his mid-30s. So was Lennox Lewis's. And there's plenty of guys that, even if they're not quite as athletic and snappy in their as they were in their late 20s, the drop-off is so negligible, and they've become so smart and experienced into their early and mid-30s that they make up for it in other ways. Kind of like Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan did in basketball, where the elevation began to recede. So use an extra pump fake or two, create a little room with craft and with savvy, and that's what the best do. And so, but yeah, to answer your question, yeah, and I think that Crawford and Spence are in their primes. I think Spence is peak, and you guys that know sports know peak and prime, two different things. Prime's longer, peak is the very top of it. I think Spence's peak was the Kell Brook fight until the Mikey Garcia fight. And he looked at pretty much peak form against Ugas, a return to peak form. Crawford's peak was the HBO days all the way up until that Jeff Horn fight, that first fight on ESPN. And then even beginning in the Jose Benavidez fight, he began to get hit more and use his legs less. So, yeah. Thank you, though, for the super chat, brother. Heavyweights peak later. Exactly, Andrew G. That is usually very true. My trainers back in the day would tell me the higher the weight, the older the prime. And the higher the weight, the later you could get away with a late start. So a lot of heavyweight champions, Hasim Rahman, Deontay Wilder, just the name too. I know there's several more. Started at 18, 19 years old and became heavyweight champion of the world. So Gilly Slick Jean said, seems like the heavy guys peak later. Again, great point, along with Andrew G. J-Dog says, Spence has way better defense than Crawford that I could see. We'll see, but if Spence does win, I will be reminded of my man Carson Merck from the Porterway podcast. I love you, brother. He's very confident Errol Spence wins this fight. I got Crawford, but he tells me, hey man, I got Spence. He makes less mistakes. He just doesn't make a lot of mistakes. And that's that Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett thing. It's not as flashy. It's not as athletic. It's not as, all of that. But so we'll see. But all right, chat. I think it's been about an hour now. I got a flight ahead of me in less than 12 hours to Oklahoma. Then I'll be back home. But if there's, I'll stay for another minute or two here and see if there's any, big questions that we really ain't talked about. But other than that, man, it's time to enjoy the weekend and enjoy Kambosos and Keyshawn tomorrow. I think Spence got too much size and volume for that boy. Credit to whoever wins, though. Well said, CW. Well said. Ryan Garcia looks like a welterweight now. What's up with that? He did look big. He's not in camp, He's not, 3 pumps, he's not in camp yet, so. But yeah, he did look big to me when I saw him, what was that, yesterday. When I saw him yesterday, he looked big. Looked like a guy who's been kind of depressed, losing the first pro fight of his career by knockout, but a guy that's been a little depressed, going through it, a little down in the dumps, but has had $30 million to make him feel better about it, and a new trainer to make him feel better about it. But it was, I only say he's been going through it a little bit because the beard's grown out and he's a little heavier than we're used to ever seeing him, even in between fights, but he looked happy, though. He was still the same old Ryan, an upbeat, kind of enthusiastic personality. We'll see if just Derek James tightening up his fundamentals can work wonders for him. So we'll see. Sean, how do we get more coverage on the amateur nationals? Says Jamison Childress. Good question. That's a good question. If you know the people who are involved, or some of the fighters that are involved, they might want to let it be known to certain outlets and media that, hey, this tournament's going. I know USA Boxing shares everything on Twitter, but that's only seen by so many people. A lot of people don't follow that account, unfortunately. I do. But there needs to be more awareness about it. There just needs to be more promotion in the amateurs, period. I mean, USA Boxing is the equivalent to our NCAA, and NCAA sports are almost bigger than the pros at times when March Madness heats up and the national championship, and we have nothing like that in boxing. And I've been guilty of it myself at times, although I have interviewed amateurs on the channel, and I tell you guys on these lives about guys like Jamal Harvey, who's on the 2024 Olympic team that I think is going to be special in the pros, or if not special, elite or definitely a world champion. Definitely a world champion. Jamar Talley at heavyweight, small, only six, kind of like Jared Anderson, 6'3", 6'4", very talented heavyweight. Raheem Gonzalez, I think, will win a gold medal. He has that perfect Olympic, quick, fast hands style to win a gold medal in 2024. But there needs to just be more awareness on when and where the tournaments are happening so that media knows and can hopefully cover accordingly. I have to be better about it as well. So thank you, Jamison Childress, for that. Krishna Wainwright said that Spence reminds me of Evander Holyfield. I don't see that very much. What's up, Bostons? How you doing, brother? I don't see that so much. Evander Holyfield moved a lot on his toes, and Spence isn't on his toes nearly as much. Holyfield would go side to side, double jab, and then really fast hands, athletic combination. Spence is more methodical in how he fights and doesn't use as much bounce in his toes and in his rhythm. He's more planted on his feet. So I don't see that much. And he's a southpaw, and Holyfield was orthodox. I don't think they fight too similar at all, except they both have that USA Olympic background where they're very educated using their jab to set up combinations. But Holyfield was really fast. Holyfield, even at cruiserweight or heavyweight, might have been faster than Errol Spence at welterweight. So Holyfield, to me, is the second greatest. If we're just talking resume and accomplishments, he's the second greatest heavyweight behind Ali, because look at the names he fought, and he's the only, I think he's the only legit 3-time lineal or whatever heavyweight champion as well as Ali. So I know Lennox won it 3 times, but he wasn't lineal when he got that WBC belt that Riddick Bowe vacated. So I think it's just Holyfield and Ali there, but let me see. NFL Blitz or NBA Street? Oh my God, that's so hard. NBA Street Volume 2 and NFL Blitz 99 and 2000 are like GOAT tier of video games. They're amazing. I think they're actually underrated. So I can't choose. They're both at the tip of the top of the best video games ever made. Thank you, CW. So EJ reminds me of Winky. I said that to Winky Wright before. Winky Wright's right behind me. I agree. He reminds me a lot more of a Winky Wright than someone like Holyfield. But still, they're different in their movements and their rhythms and all that. But that fundamental southpaw jab, walk someone down, great high guard. Yeah, there's some Winky Wright there. Winky Wright was quicker. Couldn't punch like Errol. Wasn't heavy-handed like Errol, but he had a great jab, faster jab. Underrated, great hand speed, Winky Wright. And then he had a little to his head movement too. He has the best high guard I ever seen in my life. But with those long forearms and everything, and then just that jab out of it. But he was a pressure fighter, Winky Wright too. That's what was crazy. He wasn't a puncher, but he was going forward, walking guys down and hitting their body. But he had his little bend to his waist out of his high guard at times too. So yeah, they're different. But Errol does remind me of Winky Wright. I've always thought that too. But all right, chat. I will check with you guys later, and be on the lookout for some coverage from Oklahoma tomorrow night. I'll be there live. So shout out to everybody in the chat. Thank you, everybody. Charles N said, Sean, do you shadow box right before a live stream? Maybe look in the mirror and say, I'm the boss, 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 I'm the boss. I'm the boss, I'm the boss, I'm the boss, I'm the boss, I'm the boss. And then put my leopard robe on and go out there. Yeah, Jake LaMotta style, baby. Yeah, you know what, Charles N? I'm going to start doing that. I'm the boss, I'm the boss, I'm the boss, I'm the boss, I'm the boss. Like Jake used to do. I love that movie, man. I love Raging Bull. So, Krishna, you thank you, Krishna. I'm happy you were still around to hear what I thought about that. But, Krishna, to be fair to you, they both had that USA Olympic background, so maybe you're picking up on some similarities from that schooling. But all right, everybody, have a good one. I'm the boss, I'm the boss, I'm the boss. All right, see you, everybody. Much love. Have a great week.